The Olszynski Law Firm is an official sponsor of Top Bin 90, specializing in personal injury, criminal defense, DWI, family law, and workers' compensation. The Olszynski Law Firm provides professional, trusted legal services to clients facing a variety of challenges. With a team of experienced attorneys dedicated to protecting your rights, the Olszynski Law Firm is the legal support you can count on.
Hi, I'm Justin Olszynski, the founding partner of the Olszynski Law Firm. Me and my wife started this firm back in 2010 with the sole purpose of providing excellent service to our clients, giving our clients a personal touch because we had worked in bigger firms where we saw that not happening. We handle criminal defense matters, civil personal injury, wrongful death, workers' comp, and family law matters. We have a team of attorneys that care about the outcome of your case, and we will fight to make sure that you get the justice you deserve.
Hello and welcome to episode 46 of the Top Bin 90 podcast. We're here today. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. Charlotte signed a new fullback, Mr. David Schnegg. Some international roster spots came in. We got some interesting questions from the fans as well, and we're here to break it down with you. And we've got a couple of the best minds in MLS. We have my co-host, Mr. Bam Maurer Media. How are you today?
I'm doing good, man. We've got notes. Watched some highlights of AFCON final this morning.
Hopefully our show's not that chaotic.
Yeah. I don't know if there's highlights from a game that gets you more amped up for the start of MLS season than that one. That was wild.
Nice. And also on the show today, we have Mr. Rage Baiter on Twitter himself, the long-lost cousin of Jude Law, Mr. Caleb Adams. How are you today?
That's my real dad. I was adopted.
How are you feeling, man? It's still January, so we need to ask you, you have any New Year's resolutions? You definitely don't if you have to think about it.
I do, and it's to make more people on Twitter salty.
Nice. Awesome. Well, cool. Let's get right into it, guys. Charlotte FC signed David Schnegg. Last year he played for DC United, right? It's very interesting, catching now, kind of Dean's behaviors and how he talks. When he mentions, a position that we're like, what? That kind of means that we're going to have somebody signed or they've got somebody 85% done. And so I know he mentioned fullback in his presser last week, and lo and behold, 2 days later, they signed a fullback. So I'll start off with you, Brian. Talk to me about this signing.
Yeah, and actually I think it's going to be a nifty bit of business because it was off of waivers. And so while he was on $700K this last year for DC, where he got a ton of minutes, he's also pretty familiar with Charlotte FC's game. He played against them in the U.S. Open Cup, played all 120 minutes, scored in that game as well. But because he's off of waivers, Charlotte's not going to have to pay his entire salary. So it depends on kind of how that ends up breaking down. But probably will only hit their cap at a couple $100,000 or something like that. So you get an MLS player on a reduced salary. At first, when I saw that number, when I first looked, I was like, man, they're paying a lot for left backs. It was like because Tuffalo's on $1 million, so I was like, man, that could be 1.7 mil for one position like that, especially defense, left back. So, but after breaking down the waivers and how that can all happen, so I think it's going to be. You're finding depth, right? Which this team lacks along the entire back line right now. So they need some more fullbacks, more center backs, and so this is just the start of, I'd imagine, some more moves to come.
Yeah, Brian also mentioned on the show, Caleb, that, it feels like a lot of the prime players are kind of aging out a bit. We see a signing 27 years old, right? What do you make of this signing for Charlotte FC?
Yeah, I think it's a trend. It's a follow-up from Luca de la Torre, I feel.
Yeah.
Like someone who's 27 as well. Is coming in here in his prime, wants to spend his prime years at the club. I think the club is prioritizing people who are saying, hey, the best years of my life I want to spend in Charlotte. And I think that the club is wanting to lean more that way, which is great news. I think this is a great signing. If he does, in fact, hit the cap at just a couple, 200, 300K, that's about as best as you can do in MLS for depth. So I'm very happy with it. I'm also a bit curious as to why he took the deal, because he knows he's going to be a backup. And he was not a backup at DC. He's shown that he can be a starting caliber fullback in this league. So I also wonder, I'm kind of curious behind the the why he even came to begin with.
Yeah, maybe he had a little conversation with Fuchs,
Or I mean, it's a 1-year deal as well, right? So it's nothing like super long term.
True, yeah.
Also, like, I mean, he's like, I mean, on a trophy-winning team versus DC, which is in like a full rebuild mode right now. So I mean, in the short term, if you're gonna make your money either way, might as well be on a team that's probably pushing for trophies, whereas DC is full rebuild. So I mean, there's
pushing for trophies. We can't even make it out of a playoff.
Well, I mean, that's the standards they're setting, right?
I think that's definitely the pitch. I think that's definitely the pitch for Schnegg is like, hey, we got you in 1 year. Like, we're in win-now mode. And that's what this screams to me is the 1 year deal. He's in his prime. Yep. Everyone's just kind of going full steam ahead to try and win it.
Nice, yeah. And, I mean, it's a position that we need good backups, right? I mean, I'm still curious to see because Dean also mentioned a goalkeeper. Yeah. So they've got to have somebody in mind. And just looking at the trend of goalkeepers under Dean Smith, it's always someone that's either a veteran or somebody with a good amount of experience, right? So you look back, David Bingham came in, 34, 35 years old when we signed him, and also Drake Callender in his prime, right? But I'm sure he wants to be a starter, and that's why he left to Minnesota. So I'm just curious to see how much of a gap Dean sees between Kalina and guys like Chituro Odunze and Holiday, who they are young, but at the same time, like, you don't need a starting caliber goalkeeper if you have Kalina in your roster.
And you only have 3 senior roster spots available. So if they're going to find a veteran, the upside to Bingham was he was on like that. They had that new rule. That supplemental roster for veteran player rule. And so he slotted into that. So if you find a veteran like that, I'm cool with it. But with only 3 spots left and still multiple holes to fill, goalkeeper isn't one of them that needs to be on a senior roster. So for me, I would rather like just find the positions you need at the other spots, fill it with the senior roster, and then I'm fine with Odunze or Holiday battling it out for a backup spot. Just because when it comes to the roster cap rules, you gotta have to be conservative.
Yeah, listen, if I see another Drake Callender-esque signing for Charlotte FC, I think somebody has something against Kalina. Yeah. I don't think it's Dean Smith, but I'm going to start thinking that way, because it just doesn't make sense in my
Dean Smith was one who said it. So.
That's true. Awesome. All right, let's talk a little bit about, we also saw that Charlotte FC spent $400K in GAM to acquire 2 international roster slots from Seattle Sounders. We keep doing business with them this offseason. What could this mean, Brian? What could it mean for Charlotte FC?
I think signings are coming. I also think there's your U22 initiative spot open as well with Petkovic's loan to Seattle. So I think, Rodolfo Loco, we've talked about him before, probably at the top of that list because his transfer fee was up to $6 million. Played in AFCON just recently. Will be joining camp here soon. So he would be at the top of my list. He would require an international roster spot, and then I would assume at least one more coming in, if not 2.
Caleb?
This is just a typical Charlotte FC move.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it didn't come earlier. I was like, man, this is really weird. We're like, we're getting like almost to the end of January. We haven't got international slots yet. Yeah. So,
Yeah, and we've added a couple positions, but it still feels like this team is lacking a lot, and we're already, center back should have been addressed quicker than this. I know Dean mentioned last week they're talking to people, but, if you need a new center back, we know that, you need somebody that's going to be in training with the team that kind of gets the reps preseason if they're looking for a starting caliber center back. And like you just mentioned, the February is, coming up, and it's coming up quickly.
Yeah, that's crazy, actually, thinking about it. February's 10, 11 days now.
Yep.
Yeah. It's coming fast, but like you said, I think you mentioned before the show, you mentioned that, we've done deals going into March and stuff. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if the club is, because I know the club prioritizes the right guy rather than rushing and racing, because MLS is pretty forgiving in its format, right? If you want to make playoffs, you can sacrifice a little bit of the early games as long as you can have that big push in the end. Ultimately, that tends more in MLS.
Yeah, but prioritizing the right guy can mean a lot of things too, because they also have to hit. They waited late for Leah Labada, and look how that's turned out. He came in, I think, late February. Sure. So, especially with a team that wants to compete, we're getting the message that, this team is going to be up there, going to be competing for, again, a top 4 spot and also trying to make it further. And that's one thing I did really like about last week's pressers. Kalina, Brent, all these guys, like, they understand that, like, there is another level that this team can give, and they keep coming up short in the playoffs, right? The consistency through the season, we see it, but in the playoffs, it's felt like, okay, there's that one piece missing.
And also, their standards are also that they're pushing for coming in first in the league, right? Supporters Shield is another trophy that Westwood and Dean are both eyeing as like the one that they value more.
Yeah.
So like there's way less room for error waiting for a signing through the first couple months if you're trying to stack 65, 70 points, which is what you're going to need for Supporter Shield. So you don't really have – there's just less and less wiggle room for these kind of things to draw themselves out. I do think that based on what I've heard from Dean in his first presser and also from another interview with Tim Ream when he was at the MLS Media Day, it seems like the team is at least decently comfortable and confident with Privet starting back there out of the gate if they don't find their guy. I mean, that
surprised me.
Yeah, so, Dean seemed pretty positive and confident that Privet could find his form again to start the year, and Tim Ream said pretty much the same thing. Tim Ream went as far as to say, like, he felt like he was going to be the starter back there alongside him. That's what he told David Goss. And so,
oh, wow.
I mean, obviously Tim's not the coach, but, he probably has at least a decent amount of voice just because he's a veteran in that locker room. So I imagine that also plays a role as to why they were kind of waiting on center back. If they already feel comfortable at least with their starting 11, they maybe feel less need to rush right out of the gate.
I don't necessarily hate that either.
Yeah.
I do think Privet was pushed out for fair reason. At the end of the time when he started playing, was his form was dipping. He didn't have that sort of same composure and solidity that we saw from him earlier, and he dropped. Ream came in. Ream turned out to be really good. Had a great end of the season. But I still think Privet is still that player. I don't think that player is gone. I think he can refine it again. But I do think that Dean will have to adjust some of his rest defense and some of the structure of the team to accommodate someone not as athletic and forgiving as a Melanda. Because there's a lot of stuff we get away with because of Melanda and Kalina.
Yeah.
One of those guys is gone. And hopefully we get the version of Kalina we saw at the end of the season and he bails us out. But if we get like that middle of the season Kalina version, we're cooked.
Yeah, hopefully we don't get that new kid Kalina.
Yeah.
It felt like he had a dip every time he had a kid. So. Kalina's don't be active for a while. I guess let's jump into this conversation then. Let's talk about, how concerned are you seeing some of the moves teams are making in the East? Nashville signed Espinoza, Inter Miami has just been adding players. Sergio Reguilon. They're about to sign Bertrame from Monterrey. So, the teams specifically in the East is what Chicago's going to potentially look better, right? Yeah. Atlanta, they've got Tata back, right? So how concerned are you looking at what's going on in the East?
On paper, for sure, there's definitely some concern. I would say Nashville is a big one. The fact that they got Espinosa, that front three is pretty ridiculous. The amount of goals that Surge and Mukhtar were able to combine for last year, and then you add one of the MLS all-time assist leaders to that attack out of nowhere, and in a situation that shouldn't have happened, that kind of has just evolved this way. Also, Miami has improved on every single line. David Ayala is another signing for them that's going to go under the radar, but he's just adding more depth to that midfield.
Allende's back officially,
Yeah, he had like 24 goals last season, and he's not a DP.
Yeah, that's insane.
Broke the record for most goals in an MLS Cup playoff run. They're just stacked on every single line. This is going to go down as the best roster on paper going into a season. And I don't even know even if you were to loosen the salary cap roster rules, other markets still wouldn't be able to match what they're putting out there. It's pretty incredible.
You got to give Miami kudos. I know they got a lot of crap because they signed these older guys, but it sort of like LAFC as well. LAFC signed big names, but the supporting recruitment of them is phenomenal.
That's a good point.
LAFC, the reason they're so successful is, they've got guys like Vela in the past, but also, man, some of the value they've gotten from some of the foreign signings, and even like local guys, even domestic guys, like Hollingshead, for example. Like these types of players, like they've been able to supplement all these star power with the right supporting cast. staying within the limits, but still having some. It's a lot of quality across the board. And Miami are doing something very similar, except their talisman is Messi. So it's just amplified even more. So I think this team stopped being like Messi and friends. It's actually a team. This is a legit team. I mean, we saw that last year in the MLS Cup playoffs.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I think the other statements was, them taking advantage of Minnesota situation and getting St. Clair was a big statement, and then just the fact that they threw out cash for Tristan Blackman too. Obviously it seems like that offer is completely closed, but still the idea that they are approaching things in that way as well is an intense flex that's just showing like, hey, we're trying to stay at it.
Right after MLS Cup winning. Right after a lot of teams are just kind of like, all right, well, we win MLS Cup. We're good for the next 5-7 years.
Well, listen, I love that Jorge Mas came out and said it. I love that the ambitious buy, the ownership. Shout out, great name, by the way. He talked to, hey, we want to win the the CONCACAF champions. So, this is a team, they're setting a new standard for MLS. My hope is that, Garber and these guys, we need to loosen some of these roster rules a bit more. Listen, I'm all for having some sort of cap just to keep some sort of parity, but MLS is getting to that point, where we need to see a little bit more, maybe another DP, maybe an increased in terms of the salary guidelines that we have, because the league is going to continue to get competitive. And if you want a guy like Adilson Malanda to go from MLS to the Premier League and not from MLS to the championship, the league needs to support that as well.
I also think that a lot of Miami's success in building the roster comes from the draw of Messi. I think guys are taking pay cuts.
That's a good point, too. Yeah.
Pay cuts. Yep. Guys are making moves to Miami where they normally wouldn't even consider it otherwise, back when Higuain was there. So I don't know how much longer Miami can keep pulling these kinds of names and people taking pay cuts just to be able to play with Messi in a really great city like Miami. So we'll see what it looks like post-Messi era. I do think that I still think the league is too dependent on Messi as a whole, as a marketing sort of thing, and that's where increasing the caps, loosening the roster rules can help.
Yeah, but go from Messi to Neymar for 2 years to Mbappe.
It's not the same pool though. But Neymar, even Mbappe, those guys like that, people. I don't think it's gonna have the same sort of draw.
That's a fair point. He's a GOAT.
I'm gonna be playing with Lionel Messi no matter what. At the end of my career, I'll say I was his teammate and I won trophies with him. So, I just think
it's a very fair point.
It's tough.
Yeah, I have nothing else to add.
Awesome. Okay. I also want to talk a little bit about, obviously preseason starts. Charlotte will have an unofficial game this Saturday if it doesn't, depending on the snow, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought that was so funny.
They got yellow and orange balls.
Yeah.
We can still show up there.
Listen,
We're
Costa
ready.
Rica played USA that one World Cup qualifier where they had a red ball. I remember that. That was an insane
It was
match.
reddish orange.
And the calendar's about to shift. We got to get ready for this.
That's a great point.
Media, players, everybody. It's game time.
Cisco said,
Wasn't in my contract.
All right. What do you have to say, Cisco?
I don't need a pay raise for that.
To be in the snow. Okay, preseason officially starts, right? What are you guys most interested in learning about Charlotte FC this preseason? I'll start off with you, Caleb.
Yes, the main thing I'm wanting to learn is our progression of principles of play, the PPP. Because I really want to see an evolution of the team. We had an evolution last year. It came by way of personnel, not by actual playing style, team structure, tactics. We were able to hit top four, not because our tactics changed, but because we played the same tactic, just had better talent across the field. And so I really want to see the next progression of this team of, and I'll kind of go more into a little bit later on one of the questions someone asked the show, but that's the big thing for me is, okay, Dean Smith, you've stabilized the ship. We've had some impressive results. We've got top four. So far, every goal minus winning that first playoff game has been hit from you. How are you going to get this team to the next level now? Because I don't put us in the same category as what I would consider the elite teams. I think we're a great team. We're not an elite team yet.
Agreed.
So that is my biggest question going into this is, okay, what's going to change tactically? How is Dean going to actually evolve now that he has, on paper, a good team, still needs a little bit of work. So that for me is number one priority, what I'm looking out for.
Yeah, we saw that. Like, that's a great point. The distribution of Pep Biel was informed for a while before he got injured. We saw, Zaha scoring. We saw Idan Toklamati, 10 plus goals, right? 11, right? Brian, how does Charlotte FC go from a Charmander to a Charizard, like Caleb just mentioned?
I mean, I think it comes down to progression of play, right? Connecting the lines is a big thing. I mean, that's why they brought in a Luca De La Torre. I think that's going to be another thing to watch out for, is just how does he fit into this group?
Yeah.
Maybe the different rotations of midfielders throughout preseason. Who kind of does Dean fit in and move around? Does he move Pep Biel out wide at times? Because it seems like he's at least hinted at that based on how he kind of sometimes likes to use a flat three. So kind of seeing how he mixes up the midfield there, and then also there's a bunch of young players competing for spots, and there's at least 3 supplemental roster spots open. So I'm also interested in whether it's, I mean, we've talked about Rodolfo Aloco a lot, but I mean, there's a lot of other college players and Crown Legacy guys. Aaron John is another name. There's spots open in first team contracts to earn. Which of these guys kind of step up? Also, Baye Coulibaly, I'll throw him out there as well. I'm interested to see what his progression is with his second preseason with his team.
I'll just add on to that really quick here. Biggest thing for me too is what kind of ties with that is we're in year 5 of the academy.
Yeah.
I think year 5 is a good sort of point to start having a little bit of expectations from the academy of, okay, we're 5 years into this. Like most of those guys that came in who were literally 13 or 14 are now becoming 18 years old.
Yeah.
I think of guys like Nimfasha, for example, is a good example. Berchimus, a player that has been here since he was 13 years old. So for me is, okay, we're getting all these great players. We need to supplement some of these guys. We need depth. When is the academy going to come in, pitch in, and become a factor in that? And I think this is the year of okay, if no one's breaking into the first team at this point, is this going to be a place we can reliably count on talent? I think that's some questions need to be asked at that point.
I would also add, and I'd ask you this question: how much does the floor of the team need to improve also to make sure that that evolution of the team is there? Because I mean, they lost Adilson Malanda, so that's a big hit to the defense. We obviously see an elevation with Luca De La Torre in midfield, but overall, do you feel like the team also needs to kind of improve that floor?
I think Malanda certainly may decrease the floor. I think that you can tactically adjust for the lack of Malanda. I think we're doing some things tactically that weren't beneficial to us, and again, we got away with it because we had Malanda. Now that we don't have Malanda, I would like to see how Dean adjusts to be able to get us back on that same level again. Because yes, you lose the center backs huge, but center backs ultimately, if you look around the league, you look at guys like Hawk, for example. None of these guys are really spectacular players. The coach just happens to know exactly how to get the most out of these guys and get more out of them. Privet's a great example of this. Privet's a guy that no one really counted on. But if you know his strengths, you know what he's good at. He's not the best in transitional 1v1 defense. But if you can sort of sit down, let him lock in, even play out of the back, he can really succeed and thrive as just sort of an in-the-box type of defender. So that's my question to Dean is, I think we can keep that floor, which is a defensively sound team without Malanda. It's more so how are we going to hit the next level?
I also think this is something that I don't think I've heard point this out about Privet. He was playing left center back as a right-footed player. He's now going to be right center back as a right-footed player. So it's should be a little bit more comfortable for him, to be honest, when it comes to ball progression and these kind of things. So we might actually just see a different element to his game just because the angles will be different. His ability to kind of get the ball forward should be a little bit cleaner and easier for him than it had been.
Even as a defender, even when you're jockeying on defense, most people tend to try to beat you on the outside. Guess what's on the outside? It's his right foot. So even stepping in for tackles, for a slide, for a step, for block, even that becomes a lot more natural and easier to do.
Yeah, I think I would kind of answer my own question as well. There was also a bad period where Malanda was also part of the team, and he was also making mistakes. So, and just given the nature of Dean Smith, you know him more for a defensive style transitional play than actually holding the ball, right? Being more possession based. And so I think from that standpoint, I'm 100% with you, Caleb. Where we need to see the evolution of the team, and I mean, like, I'm not as worried about Malanda that replacing him. I'm more worried about what we can do from the midfield perspective and up top.
Yeah.
Yep. It's the stat that we pulled out a couple weeks ago was Charlotte was 29th in shot creating actions in the entire league. So they just didn't create anywhere near enough attacking volume, and they relied heavily on shooting efficiency to get through last year. So you can't count on that level of shooting efficiency. You got to get the attacking volume up, and then that helps relieve some of the pressure from your back line, regardless of who's back there. If you just have the ball in more dangerous areas more often, the opposition has less opportunity to score on you. So
Best defense is not letting them get the ball.
yeah, or being there at third.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep, 100%. All right, let's move on to the next topic. This was a question that Brian kept annoying me about. He's like, make sure this is in. I was like, Brian, we have enough time. No, I'm just kidding.
I got a couple good names for it. So.
Who are some breakout candidates for Charlotte FC in 2026?
Yeah, I think for me an easy one is Harry Toffolo.
Okay.
Based on how I saw him play during the playoff series, very high. He was pretty much a left winger for a lot of that playoff series. Gave Wilfred Zaha the freedom to move further inside, which I think is going to be more valuable for this team because his ability and his high-level IQ, ability to distribute the ball. I think if Toffolo's out wide left and advanced, just gives, I think, this team another attacking outlet, and I think he could really have a breakout year. His attacking numbers in the championship were pretty good. He had some goal contributions, and a lot of assists. Double-digit goal contributions a couple times. So, for me, I feel like he could get close to that range.
Caleb?
I'm going to do a little pushback on that, Brian.
Okay.
Don't take it personal.
Yeah, no, you're good.
But we're paying this guy $1 million. For me, that doesn't signal to me a breakout. That signals to me, okay, doing what you expect him to do, what you're paying him to do.
Yeah.
When I think of a breakout player, I think of guys like Koulibaly, right? Bay Koulibaly. He's a player that came into the academy system, into Crown Legacy. Got a few minutes at the end there. Is really highly touted. And I do think that he's going to get some more minutes. I think he's someone that's going to be able to come in and sort of alleviate some of that pressure. A Westwood, which I think we really need. We really, really need some of the younger guys coming through the midfield, whether it's Aaron John, whether it's Koulibaly, to come in and be able to alleviate some of those end-game minutes, run those few, last yards at the end of a game, hold it out, bring some new life into the game. I hope he comes through. So that's who I'm really keeping an eye on to see.
I'm going with Rodolfo Loco. You can't spend $5-6 million for a guy and not expect him to get some minutes, right? And if you're spending that kind of money, it's like Idan Tokolamati. It took a couple of games for us to be like, okay, this guy, there's something about him, And I wanted to see the same thing. I'm not expecting some crazy consistency off the gate, but I need to see, within a 4 to 6 games time span of games to be able to say, okay, there's a really, really quality player in there.
I would add to that too. Loco, what he has going for him is at the bar at right wing.
Yeah.
If that's where he ends up playing at, it's not that high.
Yeah.
How many goals did Vargas score? Maybe 6 goals this last season?
Yeah, 6 goals, 3 assists.
That's decent, but that's not that high of a bar, right? This isn't like a Zaha you're trying to show up. If he has a breakout year, Loco could very much be starting if you don't sign any right winger in the offseason here. So I think that'd be really exciting to see him, and he has every opportunity to take this position.
Yeah.
Right. Any other shouts? Maybe Mika, is it Mika or Micah Thomas?
Mika Thomas.
He beat Brent Bronico in the fitness test, right? Does that say anything at all?
I think it means he's going to be at Philadelphia Union in the summer. That's what happened. That's what happened last time. Brent Bronico lost in the fitness challenge. Was Ben Bender went to Union.
That's
so
funny.
I think that's what's going to happen. I don't know.
I think
He's the third string left back now. And he's buried behind a guy who's on $1 million, right? Who should be only continuing to improve. Toffolo, and then Schnegg's also. That's tough. It's probably now become one of the tougher, more competitive positions.
Yeah, and
we do have another Ajiman too on the.
We do.
Morrison Ajiman. So,
but I'm gonna go back to winger again. and that's Berchamus.
Yep.
I think this is pretty much a make or break year for Nafasha, which is crazy to say. He's going to be 18 here. I mean, at this club particularly.
Yeah, for sure.
I think if he doesn't break through, at least gets consistent backup minutes this year. I mean, I'm not saying his career's done. He's still very young.
Dang, Caleb.
But what I'm saying is that I think that, maybe he explores other opportunities to get minutes, because at some point you have to be playing.
Yep.
Like, you're turning 18, you have to be playing first team minutes. And for his own sake, his own development, if he doesn't break in this year, he probably needs to leave for his own development.
I think that's a fair point. He, especially with the amount of kind of just eyeballs that have been on him, from Manchester United trial there, Bayern Munich trial there. A lot of people have been keen in on him, and just the amount of big goals he scored for the U.S. Youth National Team in big moments in competitive matches. So, I mean, he's got to find minutes somewhere for sure.
Yeah, and I would imagine that it's not like he's you need him to come in and break and be the guy.
No,
it's more like, hey,
all.
this guy's gonna come in, and you see kind of a progression in his game, and I could easily see him also go in the summer window if he gets a couple of reps in, these first couple of months, because he has a market value already based on his youth career.
Go ahead.
Well, here's another storyline to all this: is Wilfried Zaha's option is still up in June.
Yep.
And it's clear. I mean, there still hasn't been a new contract on the table yet, or they haven't been able to negotiate and get that transfer done. I mean, if Nimfasha, say he actually does show out, and then they decide to go in a different direction and clear a pathway for him to actually get more minutes, I mean, that's also something that could be on the table.
Yep.
I would just love him to be an X factor player. In the playoffs, I was like, man, if Nafasha comes through and if he does some of the impact that he had on the youth teams, he can be a really exciting player. With both his feet, he can take you on. He's quite two-footed. He's willing to take people on. He's willing to shoot it from outside the box. He's a hard worker, a great presser of the ball. I think he can be a difference maker. So that's my main goal and challenge for Nafasha this year is can you just be an X factor off the bench?
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, I think my biggest take is what Brian said, that he's going to replace Wilfried Zaha.
There we go.
Nice. All right, I want to go into a couple of fan questions. The first one is not as crazy as the second one. Rhett asks us, what will be Charlotte FC's biggest strengths and weakness into next season? Brian, you want to start us off?
I mean, I think their biggest strength will be more of the same. They're going to continue to be tough to beat, stay in games. I think their biggest weakness is going to be at times when there's gaps, being able to prevent those 1v1 situations where dribblers can just take them on all the way into the box, into the final third, and create chances. That was something that really ate their lunch a lot last year. And then just aging overall, I think that also kind of ties into that weakness. Just they have a lot of guys plus 30, plus 35 over the course of an entire season, especially when you also tie in a World Cup in the middle of there. That Ream is really focused on. How does that entire season and that marathon year play out?
Yeah, that's really good. Caleb?
Yeah, my strengths kind of align with yours, Brian. And I said just consistency and little turnover coming into this year. Yep. This is year 3 of the Dean Smith project. Yep. A lot of the same players are still here. A lot of the same core group will be here. I think a lot of belief was taken from last season of man, we finished top 4. This is legit. We got over a few sort of monkeys off our back. I think that's the biggest strength. And compared to the East as well, there's a bit of a turnover in the East. Also, teams getting better. Coach changes. We haven't really dealt with any of that for the most part. My biggest weakness for the team is the one that I've been kind of hammering home for quite a few months now is not being able to control games. When I think of this team, I wrote this down. I think this is the best way to describe a team. I think Charlotte FC are very dependent of the game state instead of dictating the game state.
Dang, that's really good.
I think it's when we play on the road, that's how do we perform on the road? Not so as good as we perform at home. That's the game state. The game state's on the road, so therefore we're going to perform that way because of the game state. Hey, we go down a goal. Man, we're struggling to get back in this game. Yep. That's the game state. I would love to see this team dictate the game state. So that, for me, is still the biggest weakness of this team is. And I hope that Luca de la Torre is able to come in and provide that missing link. Maybe he is that factor of bringing that entire glue together to help us control games. But that for me is our biggest weakness is we just are just too dependent of game states.
Yeah, I would also add to that. I mean, we saw that. I mean, Brian, you raised this question going into playoffs. Like, if this team goes down, do they have the mentality to get back up and turn a game around? And 2 home games we lost. So we clearly saw that, that was very impactful, I think for me, the positive I see in this team is like there's certain players that are going to be kind of chomping at the bit to get back. We heard from Pep Biel, who was like, man, if only able to be out there during the playoffs, right? And so I think having a breakout performance like he did for us last year and knowing that like the expectations have raised for himself, he's a DP now, and he also wants to come and prove like the type of player he is. I like that. Luca De La Torre has something to prove, right? I mean, he's in consideration, to make a World Cup as well. So I think, if I'm him, I'm trying to make sure that I'm in that roster. Whether he starts or not, that's a different conversation. But to be in that roster, you're in and around there. Like he mentioned himself, I have to have a first really good start to the season. And so that only benefits Charlotte FC. Tim Ream, you touched on it as well, so it's going to be very interesting. I think that, and I would also add, it still to me doesn't feel like on a weakness side, it doesn't feel like there's been an X factor or something that gives me like, I don't want to call it hope, but like an X factor that I'm like, okay, like, yeah, we're ready to tackle this season. We're ready to push for top 4. Luca De La Torre signing has been a good floor raiser, adding depth at the fullback has been good, but I still feel like there's something missing to this team to kind of get me excited to compete at that level. I don't know if you guys have that same feeling or not.
I don't feel too much that way because I think we got 10 goals from Zaha, 10 goals from Pep, over 10 goals from Toclomati. Like I feel pretty comfortable with our ability to score, unlike other years.
Yeah.
But last year we scored 10 more goals. We also conceded 10 more goals. Like if we can score a similar amount of goals and concede 10 less like we did the year prior to that, we're in a good spot. Like I think that the biggest thing for me is, yes, we need to increase our ceiling, but I think we have X factor guys in Pep and Zaha, even Toko at times. A right winger would be amazing. Espinoza would have been amazing. I'm really upset we didn't pull the trigger on that. He seems like a no-brainer to me. But for me, the X factor comes from the coach. I'm pressing on this a lot. I think it has to come from the coach. I think that next level of play has to come from the coach. Now with a full healthy squad.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm looking at like Inter Miami winning the MLS Cup, and they've got a better squad going into this season than they did with an MLS Cup winning squad, right? And so I think for me, it would, what can we do on the right wing position? Whether it's adding a local, like you said, getting more goals, it's got to come from that position, right? And then, or if it's signing somebody, a starting caliber right wing that can fit into this team and actually start producing more. Vargas has done a decent job. Abada, we've had that conversation and we've killed multiple times. So I'm very curious to see what we're doing. And then I think from a defensive standpoint, like they'll add a center back. There's no way they don't. And it's just, like you said, like it's going to be hard replacing Malanda, but just getting a quality center back, I'm good with.
Yeah, nation for me of both of what y'all are saying. I think they could use another guy to step up, whether it's on the roster already in a Loco or Vargas finding another gear or whoever it ends up being. Or and on
just
top
bring
of
in
that,
a Griezmann and call it a day.
Yeah, or a new signing. I think either way works, but I think you also have to add another dimension to how this team performs. I think how one-dimensional they became specifically during that New York City FC series was a little bit alarming to me. Obviously, no Pep Biel, but at the same time, they still had the game changers you would want out there to be able to make the difference, and it kind of just came down to launching long balls over the top, and they really, as the pressure kept mounting, it seemed like the ideas kept disappearing at the same time. And so that second dimension, that plan B, plan C, plan D, whether Biel's out there or not, still needs to show up. And I think that's, so it's like finding another player who can help add that dimension on the roster already or not, but then also from a coaching perspective, Dean has to unlock these players to find that second dimension as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we saw that near the end too, where like you're substituting Tiger Smalls and Brandon Cambridge in to try to change the game, and you saw Brandon, he was just signed by, I can't even say the Kukareki, Charlotte FC's feeder team pretty much, and so yeah, so there's questions. I put this again, you're right, this is more on Dean. You didn't trust your bench, in the playoffs, and we clearly saw that, right? So, okay, let's make the right adjustments to make sure that, that depth is there this season. So.
Yeah, and Carroll even pressed him on that in his first presser, and he said, look, well, it's hard to bench guys when you win 9 in a row. It's so he kind of avoided that issue entirely at that time, so we'll see.
Nice. All right, next question from the Future FC. Hopefully he sees a good future for us. Do you think Wilfred Zaha can be considered the best player in Charlotte FC history? The best player in Charlotte FC. This is there's hot takes and then there's hot questions. Brian, you look fired up to answer this question. Give us your thoughts. Is Wilfred Zaha Charlotte FC?
Well, seeing as I just said that he isn't under contract past the summer and Nympha is going to take his job, I guess no. I don't think Nympha's actually taking his job. But at the same time, I also don't think he had an okay season as a DP, but he came from, a Premier League veteran for a decade. The expectations for the star power he brings is very, very high. And he took months to adjust. There was kind of a lot of excuses coming from his camp specifically. And then also on top of it, it seems like he's also, Dean, Westwood they've all talked publicly about the weaknesses in terms of how they feel about when he gets fouled and stuff like that. Teams now know how to get under his skin.
Yeah.
So he's kind of opened that can of worms, and that's not closing. Teams are going to keep pressuring him, and whenever he's on the ball in less advantageous situations, they're going to keep being asked to clip him because it gets under his skin. He's already admitted that. So until he changes up the way he kind of performs on the field, I think teams are going to keep targeting him.
Nice. Caleb, is he the GOAT at Charlotte FC?
Pep Biel outperformed this season. And he played half a season.
Yeah.
And this was on the worst iteration of the team, too. Pep Biel was the only reason we had any goals at all during that stretch. So
it's a great point.
Yeah.
If greatest means the most recognizable, probably 100%, probably the most recognizable player we've had in our history. But in terms of best, it's way too early for that. I think there's a lot more left to. You need to do a lot more to create a legacy like that.
Yeah, for sure. You after one season, and it's not like he lit up the world. He did okay, like you guys said. And for me, I wasn't expecting Zaha to come and put Messi numbers, his first season. I wanted him to have a good. This season, I have more of an expectation than last year, just because now you have a season on your same. We judge the player. I judge every player the same way. Abada, bigger expectations for season 2. Yep. 2. Wilfred Zaha, bigger expectation for season 2. And so, I don't even think he goes into my top 3 right now. I would have to see another season of him. And speaking of that, who would you put maybe as your 1 and 2 most impactful players for Charlotte FC? And if people want to mention theirs in the comment section as well, go for it.
Impactful how? You mean for this season?
Top 2 in general Charlotte FC history.
It's Bronico and Kalina.
Really?
Yeah, 100%.
It's hard to argue that.
Think of any. Just think about it. People have come and go. There's only been 2 stalwarts who just cannot leave the starting 11 and have been a cornerstone to everything we've done up to this point. And it's Bronico and Kalina.
Dang, that's a great way of putting it.
Yeah, I think the only honorable mention, but he just doesn't have enough reps yet, is Pep Biel, just because of how productive his season was. But you just have to have more time. And if he does similar numbers again this year as he did last year, he enters the conversation. But I don't really know if there's another guy on this roster that's really, in terms of legacy and what they've actually put in terms of
I'd
service
say
to this
Malanda.
team.
This is the next one there, just
Yeah.
because he was here first season.
Yeah.
He's been there through Latanzio. He was there with Dean, and you could see just the reactions when we sold him, how much people loved him and appreciated him. But that's the next closest one, really.
Oof. Okay. Yeah. I think Kalina I'm good with, right? Bronico, yes, it makes sense. Honorable mention to the GOAT Swiderski, too. You know, I mean, he had impactful moments for Charlotte FC. But you're right. Like, it's very hard to think of, like, a player that's, like, super. I think, like, we're more basing this off of consistency than, like, like, hey, like, this guy came in and revolutionized the club.
Like, if someone came in, like, if a right winger came in, had 15 goals, 10 assists, and we win MLS Cup, that dude immediately goes down as the greatest Charlotte FC player of all time.
Yeah, that's a great point.
That's reality. But we haven't had that yet. So
It also opens the door for what Wilfried Zaha can do to kind of get himself in that conversation.
He absolutely can get in that conversation. He can.
So
I mean,
he's got to stick around until after June, though.
I mean, Pep Biel's been on loan. The whole impact he's had here has been a loan player. So now he's
you saying there's going to be a DP dip? Is that what you're saying? Is that a hot take?
No, that's not my hot take. But that does raise another question I had for you guys. What is the expectation for Pep Biel heading into a season like this? Now, obviously, like, you're occupying a DP slot, you know, so like how much are we going to measure the importance that a guy like Pep Biel brings to Charlotte FC? Because I mean, like, all right, we have bigger expectations for Wilfried Zaha. DP Pep Biel, there's bigger expectations in my opinion. Even though he not avoided the question, but I mean he answered it the way he needed to in the press conference. And I think we all pretty much have the same agreement on Abada, right? But what would your expectations for him be this season?
I mean, he's on my list for players that need to have a big 2026. I have, shameless plug, an article coming out naming a series of players that need to have a big 2026, either to earn a new contract or just to kind of show what they're worth. And I think Pep Biel is on that list. He's earned the contract, which he totally deserved, got the DP status, but now you have to stay there, right? That's once you earn that contract, you got to stay there. And also, I think it comes down to season goes. I feel like a lot of fans, pundits, I mean, even Dean kind of mentioned just his absence during that playoff run. If he's healthy during the playoffs this year and you have these big moments, the expectation now is that he's the difference maker in those situations, because without him, they didn't find him. So I think for him, there's a combination of these other guys need to step up as well, but I think for me, it's Pep Biel needs to show that he can be the game changer for this team.
Caleb?
Yeah, for me, Pep is the make or break of this team for me this season. Like, more important than Zaha, more important than Tokla, more important than Luka, more important than Kalina. I think Pep Biel, because he's the focal point of the attack, he's in the middle, he's a conductor, he's also someone who can score, assist. For me, he was playing at an MVP level before the injury.
Absolutely.
So already playing at that, already when you're having those kind of numbers, in the beginning we were playing with house money in a way, because he was a backup option on the transfer window. We were like, oh crap, Stangs did not work out. Pep, you down? 3 months. He was like, yeah, sure, I'll go. Right?
That's exactly how that conversation
At that point, like, Pep comes in, we're like, I mean, okay, we'll see how he does. But, like, odds are kind of against him. Kind of okay. Comes in, lights it up, and we're like, oh, my goodness. Pep was the move. Stangs is out injured. Stangs is irrelevant these days. I don't even know where he's at these days. Ended up being probably the better move here. But with that success from last year, even without the DP contract, all of a sudden everyone was looking at you as one of the guys. Guess what? When teams are game planning against us here early in the year, guess who's on that board of theirs? Pep Biel.
Yeah.
So we know Zaha, but this is the guy right here. Like, we know how to deal with Zaha, but this guy right here, Pep, he's really the main catalyst of this team and can hurt us. Make or break. If Pep Biel has another MVP year, and Zaha's up to par, Toko's up to par, we get a new right winger or a right winger goes to the next level, like, Pep Biel is going to be the cause of that. And it's Dean's job to get the most out of him.
Yeah. He's just going back up.
I'm going back, bro, over and over again.
You're like, let me bring up Dean. Yeah, I'd agree. I think for me, it's like, it's what I didn't see in Abada last year, which is like, there's key moments that you're expecting your DP to pull you out or to see, and you're like, you just were left dissatisfied. And so that to me is more like, hey, consistency of what we saw from you last year, maybe not super red hot form the whole season, because Like, you're not Messi. Like, it's unrealistic expectations. But there's going to be certain games
Carlos
and
Hill
moments.
wasn't Messi either, and he can do that.
Yeah,
over
that's
the course
that's
of the year.
fair. That's fair.
A lot of the key DPs put up, 25, 30
Maxi
goals.
Morales, Acosta, like these
For
guys are
sure,
not
that's
Messi.
fair. I'm saying, like, have put up good numbers, but most importantly for me is there's gonna be moments throughout the season that, like, who's gonna get us out of this situation? Boom, Pep PL goal and assist. Okay, that's what I need. 5-6 games like that through the season that I can look over outside of adding goals and assists during other games where we may end up winning 3-0, 4-0, but there's gonna be games where I'm like, thank goodness we had Pep. Like that run that he had, thank goodness we had Pep. That's what I expect from my DPs. Especially seeing how, like, a lot of the goals were a little bit more, rotated last year, to say the least.
Yeah, and I think one last point to this is also that he's in his prime, right? 29, 30, and committed long term. So the other added pressure is, like, not only does he need to perform this year, it shows, like, hey, yes, he's definitely
You're
the
the
guy
guy.
from now through 2028, 2029, because that's what they have him signed for. So the expectation is that he's the key contributor for this team for years to come, not only for the rest of this kind of generation, because this cycle is about to end through, like, the 2027 season, and there's going to be a whole new group coming in after a lot of these guys phase out. And so he's got to be a part of both the now and the future transition plan.
That's good. Yeah, and I'll add too, like, big thing for me is even more so than regular season is playoffs.
Yep.
Like, even if you're producing consistently in playoffs, you lose some playoff games, whatever. But if Pep Biel goes in and has a hat trick a game, a goal and assist the next game, like, even if you were, like, not billing, like, it's just everything comes down to me to making it past that first round of playoffs and past those initial rounds in other tournaments. Like, that is the ultimate grade for me. Is when I think of DP, it's like, yeah, I want you to come up big throughout the regular season, but if you are not present and noticeable in a playoff game, what's the point of you? What's the point of you being on the team? Like, we can hang around, like, we can have a somewhat mid team hang around in MLS, be competitive, be defensively sound, bail out goals. Like, we show we can do that. It's for me is like, okay, like, Zaha did not have that moment in the last playoff, right? He did not have that moment, which is very disappointing. That's why we signed these guys. So that for me is the ultimate thing is.
And who needs to get the best out of these guys?
When we get the best out of these guys.
I was just.
I was putting you up.
He's teeing you up.
Yeah, I was teeing you up for Dean Smith.
I missed it, but I completely missed the alley.
He was
bro.
like,
He just went right
Swing
by
and a
me.
miss.
But yes, Dean Smith.
Nice, awesome. I want to ask you this question as well that we got from fans that Brian answered it last week with Matias Laborda, right? Yeah. But Caleb, who within MLS or Liga MX do you think is a realistic signing for Charlotte FC that would improve this team?
He was already signed, unfortunately. Espinoza was the biggest one for me. It's a really long shot. I don't know how realistic it is, but I think it's Zendejas at America. It's like a real, like, out there shot. He's a left footer, coming on the right wing. He has established himself as one of the key players for America, in a high pressure situation. Guys in the playoffs, it's guys that are accustomed to that pressure, are accustomed to those moments, that have the best likelihood of stepping up. With the World Cup coming up, like Pochettino has shown that MLS, he values performances in MLS. Like, he's in America. Like, I wonder, man, you just take a crazy shot. Lozano goes down to America. Zendejas is like, I'm out of here. Let me go to the U.S., stateside, be in the U.S., be closer maybe to some training camps, be with Reem, a potential teammate of his. I don't know how realistic that is, but I think it's a move that if you sell it well enough, I think you can close on.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, this might not be popular, but maybe like a Ryan Kent. I know he didn't have the best season with Seattle Sounders, but I mean, like we've said, like the floor on the right wing isn't high. Yeah. And so, like, throw him in the mix, as a player that, I think could be of quality.
I love that shout.
So, all right. With that, I do want to say, today marks, 3 years that we lost Anton Walks. And so, it's crazy how fast that happened. And so I just wanted to say, he came in that very first season, and, I think Caleb, you and I were in a group chat. I think it might have been just you and me where we were talking about, like, yo, this is a really good player that we got in that expansion draft. You know, there's an interesting expansion draft looking back at it now, but we were like, okay, this is a piece that we needed. And so just kind of being in and around with him that first season, you know, it was pretty cool. And, you know, rest in peace, Anton Walks. You know, you'll always be remembered by Charlotte FC fans, you know, because he's at the end, he's part of history, you know, and that's cool. Anything you guys want to add to that?
No, I had interaction. I worked for the club at the time.
Yeah.
It was very painful for everyone at the club. It was a very emotional day for all of us. But it was because he was so kind and treated everyone equally. I think that was the biggest thing that I noticed from I'm working there was he was this big player, but you never felt like he was someone that was above you. He was always right down to earth, treated you like everyone else. So, yeah.
I think although most games on the sporting side, Charlotte and Atlanta is obviously a heated rivalry, especially once you see Caleb going at it on the socials with them. But,
it gets violent.
But I think Anton Walks' presence within both clubs, kind of the unity between both clubs and how they responded both to his passing and then also just to kind of remembering him year after year, I think also just highlights the impact he made at multiple clubs.
100%.
Yep. Awesome. With that said, you know, episode 46 of the Top Bin 90 podcast in the books. You know, Caleb, where can people find you at?
It's Caleb Adams. I'm nonstop on Twitter, so
you really are. Some days I just go in there and laugh. I'm like, he's at it again. Brian?
You can find me on X at Bam Mauer Media. All my written content, topbin90.com.
Nice. Yep. Jorge Gonzalez, Top Bin 90 on all socials. Be on the lookout. I think we'll hear something interesting in this next week. So be on the lookout. With that, over and out. Yee.